Conversations on Campus.
So, hello everybody to another episode of Conversations on Campus. And today we are going to speak with a very special guest who is in America right now. And it's very morning, early morning to him right now. And he is Mike Schapira. Michael is a professor currently at the School of Advanced Studies. And also, he is one of the founding members of an anxiety the anxiety culture project, research project. And so, yeah, so I'm really glad that we are going to speak with him today. And hello, Michael.
Hi, Ahmed, and
Yeah.
everyone else. As Ahmed said, I'm actually in Philadelphia right now. So this is sort of expanding the definition of what we mean by on campus, because everyone's spread around the globe. I think Peter Jones and Ann Mulhall are also in the US at the moment. So it's an interesting moment for SAS right now. But
Yeah.
I was very pleased to get this invitation from Ahmed and Sonya because when the pandemic hit, I was teaching a course called The University in Crisis, which Ahmed was in, and it was going really well. I thought it was a very fun course. And then the university hit a crisis in the middle of the course, and we ended online. And it was a little bit unsatisfying because I was having such a good time, and we built such a nice community in class. So I was happy to get this invitation because I thought we were having such great discussions in class. And this will be a way to sort of continue those conversations and to bring some other people into these really rich conversations that we were having. And we'll get into this in our talk because Ahmed gave me some great questions to consider.
Yeah. So yeah, Michael. Yeah, as you have said actually right now that yeah we were studying that the university in crisis, but right now actually the whole world is in crisis, and yeah, that's absolutely like unfortunate thing to actually experience. But as I asked you before, like we see right now that a lot of institutions literally are threatened to be demolished or even to just cease to exist just because of the economic crisis and all of what's going on, the craziness around us. But somehow this worked the best for the university. Like right now, people actually look at the university as the institution, the organization, that the building, the professors, the people that they are going to actually come up with a solution of this crisis. So yeah, so what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting moment for universities because on the one hand, there are all of these really, really dire warnings about higher educational institutions closing because of this or being in real financial trouble. And normally, or for the most part, that refers, I think, to colleges, not to universities, places that are more devoted to teaching, less to research, and more dependent, therefore, on tuition as opposed to getting grants and things like that. So you can really see a big difference emerging between smaller, less resource schools that are mostly dedicated to education, and then these larger institutions, universities that have all kinds of other things that they're doing, including, importantly, right now, a lot of research about how to develop a vaccine or to treat the coronavirus is occurring at universities. I can sort of see down the street here is the University of Pennsylvania, and they have a huge hospital there. They're one of the biggest medical institutions in the city, and they're doing research now on training dogs to try and detect coronavirus by training them to like through their sense of smell. So you can see that universities are certainly in as much trouble as any other institution right now because they can't do what they normally would be doing. But because they're so central to the functioning of societies through educating lots of people, but also more importantly through research and allowing both the government and the private sector to rely on its expertise, it seems like the universities are sort of as important as they've ever been and probably will emerge from this maybe more important. But it's worrying in another respect because it sort of is furthering this trend that we see where research is being valued much more than education. And even within education, education for sort of useful subjects like engineering and business, these are being valued, whereas education in the humanities is not being valued as much. And I worry that this trend is going to accelerate as well. And that seems unfortunate to me, because who the hell knows what the world is going to look like after this? Who knows what's going on right now? It's a totally chaotic time. It's the perfect time for people to think about things in a sort of expansive, creative way. And I'm biased because I teach and study in the humanities, but I believe the humanities are, you know, as important now than ever, because we're not getting any wisdom from the world of business or, you know, these more supposedly useful subjects.
Yeah, and actually that, because you mentioned really here a very, like, you know, like a critical word, like the finance, the funds. But and also at the same time, people right now look at the university, and they, of course, they value the research more than education, especially in the current time. And that's that, but also this even will reflect on education somehow, because if we, so yeah, so let me put my question like that: how this is going to affect the finance and the funds of some certain programs that actually are not valued right now. So for example, we know that, we knew before during our course, that there are a huge fund in programs such as healthcare system, healthcare consultants, and all of these kind of programs, like law, and what else also, engineering and medicine. But at the same time, right now, humanities like history, for example, philosophy, we have seen some universities, they shut down the programs. So do you think that maybe right now people are, afterwards even, they are going to go on shutting down these programs, or they are going to take the money from them, putting it somewhere else? So how this financial status are going to look like afterwards? I know that you can't actually predict that, but it's a hard question actually to ask. But
Yeah.
somehow we can actually see that there are some trends that can
Yeah.
anticipate that.
Well, I think it's a great question. That's the big question that I think people don't really know the answer to right now. Whether the trends that we already were seeing before the pandemic, for example, shifting resources away from the humanities towards these more profitable fields of study, whether that's going to continue and accelerate, or whether this is going to be such a disruption that people are going to rethink the priorities that were guiding these decisions beforehand. And I don't know if I've seen sort of arguments on both sides, and I think people are a bit unsure about what's going to happen as a result of this. There's a great short novella that Tolstoy wrote called The Death of Ivan Ilyich, to bring things back to Russia. And it's about a guy who was a bureaucrat, a civil servant who worked in the government his whole life. And then he's dying in the book. And at the end of his life, he's sort of looking back on the decisions that he made and, what he devoted his energy towards. And he finds them all very petty and unfulfilling, just trying to get a good job and fit in his social role. And I wonder whether this crisis will cause people to think about the value of these, I have students who major in something called supply chain management. So they go to college and they study supply chain management, and they're just sort of making themselves perfect workers to fit into the economy as it happens to be set up. But given these massive disruptions that are occurring, it seems like trying to fit yourself into an economy that's changing really rapidly in unpredictable ways might not be the best way to think about higher education, and might make people think a little more about the humanities. But who knows? Things could certainly go the other way, and you could see a further acceleration of schools being purely devoted to things that benefit the economy, first and foremost.
Yeah, and actually that's a very important question, because currently, if you know, that we are choosing our majors, the second year students are choosing their majors, and but interestingly, actually everyone is choosing their major according to their interests. I am sure that at the back of their mind, they still think about the future aspect, like the career wise. after the BA program. But still, the students themselves, they do not yet understand, or maybe they are not like making decisions based on the business value of their major. And like, for example, we have done a poll among the students, and the most chosen a major is the film study major. And here it's away from supply chain management or anything, or absolutely, like, the students are interested in learning film studies, they are interested in joining this program. So maybe there is some hope that the students are going, like, they still are like the ones, the executors of their decisions. So yeah, does this actually illuminate something or inspire you of anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's very encouraging to me, because if students are saying like, well, who knows what the future is going to look like, I'm actually therefore going to decide to study something that I actually enjoy, not something that I think I need to do because it'll get me a good job. I don't know, that seems good, because everybody knows that if you're passionate about what your subject matter is, you learn better. Like, just educationally, it's a more fulfilling experience. And there are many cases of people who study to become doctors or lawyers or engineers because it's what their parents want them to do. And they are not happy when they're doing it. And they probably won't become like the best doctors and engineers and lawyers. Those are the ones who actually feel genuinely passionate about the subject matter. So I think it's encouraging that people are studying things that they actually care about, as opposed to things that they think they should care about.
Okay, so yeah, so away from the business and the finance and all of that, and what do you think right now actually about the online education?
Yeah.
Actually, do you think that, okay, so for a small, like, we are a small building in the middle of Siberia, but we are surviving online. And do you think that actually can universities afterward survive online for good? And because right here, I just want to complicate my question a little bit, because right now this threatens the global campuses. If I can just, if there a very esteemed university can provide or can offer their program online, why should I spend thousands of dollars going to NYU Abu Dhabi, for example? You remember we spoke about that before. So here the global campuses actually, maybe they do not make sense anymore. And or do you think that maybe the online education is not going to make it, and it's just a matter of time, and we are going to get back to normal? So
Yeah, it's a tough question, because you're right in the first instance, and there are a lot of reports here in the US, because college is so expensive here, that if schools start their fall semester online, a lot of students are saying, well, I'm not going to pay $70,000 to take classes online. So I'm just not going to attend school. I'll wait till next year if you're going to open in person. So there's a lot of incentive for universities to open their campuses in person in the fall, but it's unclear whether that's going to be possible without spreading the virus around by doing it. So it's this, like, I don't know, the US is a crazy country, but right now there's all of this tension between opening up businesses again and then keeping people in quarantine to make sure that the virus doesn't spread so quickly. And universities are facing the same calculation. But I wanted to ask you, I'm going to send this question back to you, because I can say from the teacher side, talking to other faculty members at SAS and at other schools, teachers hate teaching online for the most part. There's a very small minority who embrace it and like it, but for the most part, people are very frustrated with the experience. So all of the enthusiasm about the potential of online education that people were talking about in the past 5 to 10 years, I think a lot of that is going away now that we're forced into the situation where everyone's teaching online. So what's the student experience like? Is it satisfying in any way?
Well, the experience anyway is just new for all of us, and there are like pros and cons for it. And one of the really important thing that that I really like it personally about this online education is that I am the controller of my time, like in my schedule. So first of all, I do not have to wake up at 7 in the morning in order to get ready, take the bus, and go to the school.
Yeah.
And so I am here like saving this time, and I'm sleeping, for example. So yeah, it sounds maybe crazy, like I should read or something, but no, I'm just sleeping, and I go to bed late night, and I don't care. Like I will not, I will oversleep or something. No, my classes are starting noon, so I'm okay with that. That's a
Yeah.
very big thing for me. And the other thing is that also with online education is that right now I can just be in, like I can get all of the information that are that I am receiving right now. For example, the teachers, like I am attending a lecture or something, and while the teacher says anything, I can easily search it online, just seeing what the teacher speaks about while listening as well. I know that might be hard for some people, but yeah, it's actually very beneficial in somehow. But actually the downside of all of the online education right now is that the communication part. You know that we are like in a small school. We are just like 170 students there, or and the thing is that uh, the after the class we like so much to go into the teachers, speak with them somehow about anything, or even the small talks we have after the class with our colleagues, speaking about something we discussed just in the seminar. But right now the teacher just said, we finished the class, so guys, it's like 5:30, so that's it, so I will see you next time. And then you leave the meeting and you feel as if like you haven't actually attended this class at all.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's really the downside of it. So that's what I miss maybe. And
Yeah.
the fact that actually that there is a horrible thing going on, like the thing is that I feel because I have like a lot of free time between my classes, I feel that I'm not obliged to do to prepare well for the class, because you know what, I'm going to meet the teacher and I can close and turn off my camera. I will not speak. I will mute my mic. The teacher is going to speak with anyone else. But while I'm in class in front of you, I'm in the spot. Maybe you are going to speak with me, look at me, something like that. So it will like encourage me to speak and prepare well. But right now, like we see that. But
Mhm.
yeah, so that's the experience.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. Your first observation about the positives, I think that is a real positive, because you're in class way too much in the Russian system. You just have way too much class time. It's an insane amount of time that you're at school. And learning needs some downtime to, let things sink in and sleep, as you said, because you learn better when you sleep. So I can see that as being a positive too. And there is maybe something positive that will come out of this. I was thinking about this recently, because a lot of our online activity is sort of directed towards, I don't know, like things that make money, like commercial platforms like Facebook or VK or something like that. And maybe now that people are forced to use online technologies for educational purposes, there might be more of an incentive to try and actually use things that are there that are actually for education and not for commercial purposes. Like, this is a kind of a silly example, but my wife she studies Russian literature, and there's sort of like a group of people who study Russia and Eastern European related things, and they're very active on Facebook. So people post articles and they post job notices and things, and have discussions, and it's all on Facebook. So it's all sort of mediated through this commercial platform, Facebook. But there's this other thing here called Humanities Commons that some like librarians and some professional institutions set up, which is like an open source place for people to post their work and have these conversations, to do the same thing that they're doing on Facebook. But nobody uses Humanities Commons. They all use Facebook because it's more convenient and they're used to it. So maybe if people are forced to do more of their educational stuff online, there could be more of an incentive to actually use these infrastructures that are already there in place, like Humanities Commons, and not use Facebook or VK or these commercial platforms. I don't know. Like, I don't know whether people's behaviors are going to change as a result of this. I think it'd be good if they did.
Yeah, but yeah, and online education, some like right now converting to online education in such right now in this crisis we are having, that for example, like there is a big limitation, which is the assessment criteria. How then you actually see yourself as a teacher assess a student? How are you going to grade a student? And yeah, so what do you think about that?
Yeah, this is a big topic here in Philadelphia because there's some students are suing one of the universities here because professors were saying that they were really having a tough time figuring out assessing people online. So they changed their classes to pass fail. So no longer A, B, C, D, E, F, or A, B, C, D, F, but just pass fail. And the students sued the school and they said, we're paying you tuition and you're not assessing us. We want our tuition money back. And I think it showed that it's hard for the faculty are like, well, it's hard for me to assign a grade in a normal way with online education if I'm using the same kind of criteria that I was using in the past. So I think it's hard to do in classes that have lots of students. I think ideally the way that you could assess people is through a lot of individualized feedback. Because I don't know, like maybe work now is just work that you submit, like written work online, maybe weekly written assignments or something like that. It's easy for you to sort of respond to those on a one-to-one basis and individualized assessment based on that. But if you have a class of like 100 or 200 people, which some people have online, then it's tough because I don't know what you do. You can have these automized quizzes that you can automatically grade, but quizzes aren't a very good way to sort of assess people's learning. So I really don't know. It's
But
a
yeah,
challenge.
yeah, I know that it's a challenge actually, and I just recently read this article that speaks about how higher education is going to rethink the assessment criteria. And as you just said right now, that it's a huge problem with converting the classes to pass and fail, because it's a very complicated thing, especially to like we can. I don't think that it's actually applicable to our school, because you know that we have this ranking system, and if you converted the classes into pass and fail, so it's
Yeah.
simply, yeah, you are going to mess with the system and all of that. And also we are small classes, but right now we are working on different assessment criteria, such as essays, of course, as we write a lot of essays,
Mhm.
and also oral exams. So do you think that maybe these things are going to continue on later, or what actually, how? Because okay, so let me say, like, this crisis is like an alarm to the higher education, that higher education should have both assessment criteria that can work online and offline. Okay, it's for the future, for future matters and the future events. So do you think that there are some sort of assessments right now, like formative assessments or any other sort of assessments, that we can take them, build on, and or develop them, improve them a little bit, in order to fit in both environments, online and offline? Or what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Um, because you have less class time and because you aren't commuting to school, so that both professors and students have more time. I think what you just mentioned is actually a pretty good example of having like, well, I don't know. I actually had this way before online education was anything. Back when I was an undergraduate student, I had this really great professor, and one of our like we would have a written exam. It was a philosophy class on Derrida, so you couldn't cheat. It was impossible to understand what Derrida was writing anyways. But we'd like be writing an essay in the classroom, and then each one of us would go out into the hall and he'd have like a 5 to 10 minute conversation with us about some course topics. And it was a combination of the two that was our grade. So it was the essay that we wrote and our ability to have a conversation about these topics as well. And I feel like online education allows professors to do this because there's more time now to do that. If you have a class of 15 people and you talk for 10 minutes apiece, then that's like just a little bit more than one class period would normally be. And there's the time to do that now. So yeah, I think like having the normal things like essays and small written assignments, but being able to supplement them by talking to people and sort of really probing whether they're understanding things, and using that, as you said, in a formative assessment. So not grading them whether they know it now, but sort of being able to identify what they're struggling with and target your teaching towards that. I mean, I feel like that could definitely be a positive outcome of this, to allow for that more like individually focused assessment exercise, ideally.
Yeah, ideally. But yeah, actually, maybe also this time worked the best for some universities, like in other spots in the world, because I came from Egypt, and right now in Egypt they decided already that there is no anyone like no education is going to take place anymore, like the higher education or even the general education, everything is closed. And what the students are required to do in order to pass their academic year, they have to write an essay, they have to write a project, a research project. So here the university, it's just a bold decision, just like the students, even the general education, because then Egypt, the assessment criteria is just an exam. You write an exam at the end of the year, you memorize the information well, you put them into the test, and that's it, you pass, and that's it. Right now they ask the students to somehow acquire some skills, research skill, and write an essay, write a research project, and they submit it to their teachers. So right now, do you think maybe after the pandemic, some of these universities that just changed it completely their assessment criteria, and they didn't ask about whether the students actually are ready to do so or not, maybe that would work the best for the student afterward? Or what do you think? Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe the students actually would like that, like writing essays, right, making projects, and maybe doing some research. So do you
Yeah.
think that maybe that would work the best for the students? They are going to claim that afterwards, or they are going to get back to the normal things and that's it?
Yeah, it depends on whether there is any incentive to learn from this situation. Because let's say that the students don't like this research project thing that they have to do this year. So universities are like, okay, well, then we'll just go back to the tests because the students didn't like it. But another way to read that, if students didn't like it, maybe they didn't like it because, as you said, they weren't given like any preparation in learning how to do research or something like that. So a university could also say, well, actually this is an interesting way to do this. It's maybe better than the tests if we were to provide some support, like teaching people how to do basic research, giving them better sort of like mentorship opportunities with maybe older students and faculty, that kind of thing. So, I mean, this could be like a perfect opportunity to move away from this system of testing that we know. I mean, we know how people study for tests, like high stakes tests. You memorize what you need to memorize, and then if you ask someone 2 years later any of the questions on the test, you won't remember any of it at all. It's not a good long-term learning strategy. Whereas a research project, because you spend so much time with the subject matter, you normally do retain some long-term memory of what you've studied. So if there's an incentive to learn from this opportunity, even if it doesn't go well, then maybe that'll happen. But administrators can also be lazy in their own ways and say, well, students didn't like it, so we're just going to go back to what we know how to do, even if we know it's like an imperfect way to do this.
Okay, so yeah, I just right now don't have any like talks or any even thoughts about the assessment criteria and how the education is going to look like afterwards. But I actually am interested in another thing, and I think you like, and I know that you like this topic so much, the local and the global. So I am going back again to what we started with. And right now, what do you think? Right, like, actually, right now, I don't think that there is any more global. Like, I mean, there is no any sense to distinguish between local and the global. For example, many of the universities like ours, like at SAS, for example, we opened our courses to the public. You can just attend any lecture or any class with us. And so right now our school became not only local but in a global in a sense. So here, do you think that there is any sense of distinguishing between local and global?
Yeah, I know. It's at SAS. There's really no. There's very. It's all kind of together, because especially now I'm just thinking about the open courses. So any course is in theory open to anyone can go in if they want to, but most people don't because they're busy. But the open courses people go to and they're online. But the fact that now there's no in-person courses and it's just online means that it is actually just open to literally anyone in the world who has an internet connection can take the course. So in that sense, yeah, the local and the global are definitely sort of, there's not a big distinction between the two. But in another sense, most of the students are from Tyumen Oblast, or like the majority of them. You're a big exception, but it is still, it's still a local institution in that sense, that a generation of young people from the area are being educated there. And it's, I think it's looked upon as a good thing for Tyumen to have SAS there and to have these people getting this kind of education. So in that sense, the local is still important. The other way I've been thinking about this is universities have sort of, they've taken something from the business world, which is called, I think it's called like just-in-time, what's it called? Just-in-time production. So the idea is that you don't want to have a lot of things sitting around your warehouse. You want like as little as you need. And you want to have access to these supply lines. So when you need something, you can call an Amazon warehouse, it'll be there the next day. So the idea is that you keep a kind of lean operation. You don't invest a lot in your operation, but you rely on these supply chains to get you things when you need, just in time. And schools have been doing this too, by attracting all of these international students, like from China, for example, who pay more in tuition. This is a big thing in the US and the UK. Or in the US, you have state schools that are fairly inexpensive for residents of the state, but more expensive for people from other states or international students. And they've been relying on attracting more of these international students and out-of-state students to make up tuition money. I just read an article about Alabama, which is a state in the South, that I think their main university there is now like majority out-of-state students as opposed to in-state students. And this strikes me as a sort of example of that just-in-time production, where the university business model is now reliant on getting these people coming from international places or from other states in order to like make up their budgets. So if there is a disruption in that supply chain, like people can't travel, for example, or Chinese students don't want to come to America if we continue to be like the center of the coronavirus epidemic, then the business model breaks down and the universities are going to run out of money. So there's, in certain ways, people that have focused more on serving local communities are going to be less affected in that sense by the pandemic than ones that have adopted this kind of globalized just-in-time production model. So yeah, again, we'll see how that plays out from the business perspective, but yeah, materially, it seems like the global and the local are becoming important in that sense, in the sort of business sense. But as you said, in another sense, with the way that information can spread around so quickly, they're becoming less and less important, right? That you're in Tyumen and I'm in Philadelphia, it doesn't really matter, to have this conversation.
And actually, right now, maybe the universities are going to invest more in their local brand and also in taking that into global scale. For example, I don't know, advertising it on Facebook, advertising it wherever they want to, and whenever they want. And afterwards, they maybe actually even offer their courses or programs online. You are a student in China, you are a student in Russia, you are a student in Egypt. You are our students, but you are going to stay there in your home, and we are going to offer you all of the classes online. So maybe perhaps right now, I don't know, maybe that's I know that the universities, this business model or business mindset, it's going always to develop and they take advantage of whatever is happening. And maybe right now, when all of these conversation, like an example of the conversation we are having right now, that people are thinking still about how actually to make the best of out of this situation for the university, and maybe they are going to develop an assessment criteria that can work online, and then courses, and then environment, so afterwards there will not be any need to establish a global campus there in Singapore, or there in China, or in Abu Dhabi, or in Egypt, or anywhere. But just, I'm going to offer my courses online. We have survived the coronavirus, and right now we know a lot about how to teach online, how to give you the best program, the best out of the program online. So again, maybe actually the university is going to survive again afterwards because of this business mindset. And yeah.
Like they might take this as an opportunity to do things that maybe they were too lazy or there was too much inertia for them to make these sort of tough changes, but this might be the occasion for them to actually seriously embrace online education and figure out how to do it, as opposed to just talking about it all the time.
Yeah, but the thing is that, again, investing in local education on a local public university is still maybe the best option for the environment, because you are investing in your young people, and at the same time you are investing in a place where can actually elevate the living standard. As you said, like our school here in Tyumen, I'm sure that our school plays a crucial role in Tyumen as a small city, and also we are here like an international school. So still investing in the university and the local one, or the like ours and the public one. So here lies another equation or another dilemma, that maybe the government is going to speak about. What should we do? Should we actually invest more in these universities, or we should actually think about something maybe new? And here the voices are divided, of course, because you don't know, maybe you are going to create just a university that doesn't have any campus even, and you are just offering your courses online. And so here, what do you think actually, that maybe the funds are going to go to the local, or maybe to something new, or they are going to stay the same?
Yeah, I know we looked in our class at this new place called Minerva that doesn't have a campus, but the students do move around the world, and they're not going to be able to do that right now. But all of the education was taking place online, but they had these experiences in different sites. So that model is not going to work in this new reality where you can't travel that easily. The other thing that your question makes me think about is the Russian context, because the 5 top 100 is this fusing of the local and the global. Like, you want to develop your local universities so that they can compete on these global rankings of universities. And that is I think one of the reasons that SAS probably exists, because Tyumen got into that competition, and SAS is part of UTMN's ability to compete in these rankings by having international faculty and research, being like productive researchers. So I don't know what the 5 top 100 is going to look like after this, because I don't know what the global rankings are going to look like, because researchers can't do research if they can't get into their laboratories, which is the case right now for universities that are closed. International conferences are being canceled for at least the next year or two. And there's a question right now amongst scholars of whether these international conferences are something that we should still be doing. They're really bad for the environment to have people travel to do something that you could easily just do online. So there is as you were talking about before, this kind of occasion to rethink some of these practices that have become so ingrained in university cultures. But what this means for funding, especially in the Russian context, I think is going to be really interesting going forward. Because so much of the development of universities like UTMN, and by extension SAS, is dependent on Russia sort of making an announcement that they are going to be major players in this global field of education. And if that possibility is shut down by the coronavirus for the foreseeable future, is that money still there to build up these universities? Does it go away and get redirected elsewhere? It's going to be interesting to see.
Okay, so yeah, I have no actually other questions, Mike, and I have no thoughts because of all of the situation, and we don't have, of course, enough information. It's the first time we are seeing that, and right now, while we are having this technology advances, we still we can't go to our campus, and that's actually a shame, and it's a sad thing. But I still believe that the university is going to somehow to survive and even take a crucial role in the world that yet to come. So yeah,
well, I hope you get back to campus. It is. I've been back here in the United States for maybe a month and a half or so, and everyone's asking, about my experience in Siberia. And SAS is a very unique place. It's an intense place to be because you are there all the time. The students, faculty are there all the time. The administration. It's a pretty small building. You see people a lot over the course of a week, so it's pretty intense. And to have all of that intense, like social world go away, or that physical space go away, it's probably a bit shocking to all the students and faculty there. So hopefully you get to recreate that environment somehow.
Yeah, we hope also that we are going to create that environment, and we maybe we are going to recreate it, and maybe we are going to get back to our own. And
yes.
I hope, but in a way, I think that we are going to maybe the same good place we were at before, or maybe better. And as we can see, yeah, hopefully, yes, excellent. Yeah, I'm really thankful for you, Mike, for being with me today, and really the conversation with you always interesting and fascinating and inspiring. And I'm thankful for you for all of that, and I hope that you are going to be healthy and safe in the US. So yeah,
thanks. And obviously thank you as well. And I hope everyone there stays healthy, and I hope these conversations continue. I think it's a great initiative.
Yeah, we are going to continue on, and the students, administration staff, and also professors, we are all engaged in this conversation, and we are going to see how actually we are going to carry on this project. So yeah, thank you so much.
All right.